The night had fallen heavy over the small roadside town. The neon lights of a rundown bar flickered like a heartbeat about to give out, throwing shadows across the cracked pavement. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of beer, smoke, and sweat. Laughter echoed against the wooden walls, harsh and mocking, while the jukebox played a tired country tune. She walked in quietly, almost blending with the shadows. Her name was Maya Carter, a woman who had long ago learned the difference between strength and survival. She wasn't dressed to impress: faded jeans, a simple black leather jacket, hair pulled back in a no-nonsense ponytail, but her eyes carried something that commanded respect. Or at least, they should have. At the corner of the bar, a group of bikers sat hunched over their drinks, leather vests patched with skulls and flames. Their laughter carried the weight of arrogance, the kind that made ordinary people look away and avoid trouble. Among them was Rick, Crusher, Dalton, a man with a reputation dirtier than his oil-stained hands. He was tall, broad, and carried himself like a man who had never been told no. When Maya passed, heading toward the counter, she felt his eyes burning into her. She ignored him, ordering a glass of water from the bartender. But silence didn't stop men like Rick. "Hey, sweetheart," Rick drawled, his voice loud enough for everyone to hear. "What's a pretty thing like you doing in a place like this?" Maya didn't answer. She lifted the glass, her hand steady, her face expressionless. "I'm talking to you," Rick continued, pushing away from his stool and swaggering closer. The bar seemed to shrink with every step he took. His buddies leaned back, grinning, waiting for the show. "Don't touch me," Maya said firmly, her voice low but sharp. Rick froze for a moment, surprised by her defiance. Most women either giggled nervously or tried to escape. But not her. Something about her calm tone, her steady gaze, made him pause. Then, slowly, a wicked smile spread across his face. "Oh, I like the feisty ones," he said, reaching out to brush her shoulder. In a flash, her hand shot up, knocking his away before it could land. The bar went quiet. Glasses stopped clinking. Even the jukebox seemed to fade. "I said," she repeated, her eyes like steel, "don't touch me." For a moment, the room was balanced on a knife's edge. Rick's pride had been struck, and his friends were watching. He could walk away, but men like him rarely did. "You got a smart mouth," he sneered, leaning in closer. "Maybe I ought to teach you some respect." Maya didn't flinch. Instead, she let him see something in her eyes, something cold, dangerous, and utterly unafraid. That look should have warned him. But arrogance blinds. Rick's hand darted out again, this time faster, aiming for her wrist. That was when it happened. Maya moved like lightning, twisting her body, grabbing his thumb, and bending it back until he groaned. She shoved him against the bar, her strength unexpected for her frame. Gasps filled the room. Rick's buddies half rose, but he barked at them not to interfere. Pride demanded he handle it himself. "You're dead, lady," he spat, clutching his hand as she released him. Maya calmly set her glass down, as if nothing had happened. Then she walked past him, her boots clicking against the wooden floor. But she didn't leave the bar. She went straight to the door at the back, the one that led to the storage room. Rick laughed, shaking off the pain. "That's right, run away. Can't handle a real man." But Maya wasn't running. In the storage room, the air was colder, filled with the scent of oil, metal, and cleaning supplies. She scanned the shelves until her eyes landed on what she wanted, a heavy pair of pliers, rusted but solid. She gripped them tight, her jaw clenched. Memories flashed in her mind, times when men had pushed too far, when no one had stood up for her, when the law had failed. Tonight, she wasn't the victim. Tonight, she was the judge, the jury, and if needed, the executioner. When she stepped back into the bar, silence fell like a blanket. The pliers gleamed under the dim light, clutched firmly in her hand. Rick chuckled, mistaking her calmness for bluff. "What's that, sweetheart? Gonna fix my bike with those?" "No," Maya said evenly, stepping closer. "I'm going to fix you." The room grew colder. No one moved. Even the bartender, who had seen more than his share of brawls, stayed frozen. Rick grinned wide, but his bravado wavered. "You think you can scare me with a tool?" Maya's lips curved into something almost like a smile, but it was sharp, humorless. "I don't bluff." In a blur, she lunged forward. The pliers snapped around his bottom lip, clamping hard. Rick roared in pain, thrashing, but Maya held steady, her grip unshakable. The entire bar erupted in chaos, men shouting, chairs toppling. Sit down, Maya barked, her voice slicing through the noise. The authority in her tone froze even the toughest biker. Rick's eyes bulged as she pulled, yanking him down to his knees. Blood glistened against his teeth, his pride shattering with every scream. You thought you could touch me, Maya said coldly, tightening the grip. You thought I'd be just another woman you could harass. But tonight, you picked the wrong one. With a savage twist, she pulled. The pliers wrenched against bone and gum, the sound sickening. A tooth tore free, blood spraying. Rick howled, his voice breaking. Horror painted every face in the bar. His buddies, usually so quick to jump into fights, sat frozen. No one dared to move. Maya dropped the bloody tooth onto the counter, the sound of it clinking against the wood echoing like a death knell. One, she said softly. That's for touching me, Rick whimpered, clutching his mouth. His arrogance, his cruelty, his false strength, all of it was gone. He was reduced to nothing more than a terrified man on his knees. But Maya wasn't finished. The bar was so quiet that the sound of Rick's ragged breathing filled the air like thunder. His knees pressed into the dirty wooden floor, his broad frame trembling, his arrogance shattered. A pool of blood dripped slowly beneath him, seeping into the cracks. Maya stood over him, calm as a surgeon, pliers still clamped in her hand. She looked down at him without pity, her shadow swallowing him whole. Please, Rick tried to mumble, but his swollen lip and missing tooth made his words slurred and broken. He reached up weakly, but Maya slammed her boot onto his shoulder, pinning him. Don't beg, she said coldly. You didn't give me mercy when you put your hands where they weren't wanted. You thought women were toys. You thought fear made you strong. Now you get to taste your own fear. Rick groaned, spitting blood onto the floor. His biker buddies shifted uneasily, their tough guy swagger melting under the weight of the scene. A few started to stand, but Maya's eyes shot to them like twin blades. Sit, she ordered, and to their own disbelief, they did. Big, bearded men who had fought bar brawls and run rival crews sat like children before a schoolteacher. Something in her voice, in her aura, made rebellion impossible. Maya turned back to Rick. She crouched low, inches from his face, her pliers glinting under the dim light. She tapped the cold steel against his remaining teeth, each clink making him flinch. Do you know what real horror is, Rick? She whispered, her tone sharp as a knife. It's losing control. It's being at the mercy of someone stronger. That's the hell you put women through every time you cornered them, touched them, broke them down. Tonight, it's your turn. Rick whimpered, shaking his head violently, his eyes wide with terror. I'm sorry, he choked out, words gurgled through blood. Maya tilted her head, almost curious. Sorry, do you even remember their faces, the women you hurt? The ones who didn't have pliers? The ones who couldn't fight back? His silence was answer enough. Without hesitation, she jammed the pliers into his mouth again. He screamed as metal scraped enamel, her grip unrelenting. His fingers clawed at her arm, but she didn't even flinch. With a violent twist, she ripped another tooth free, crimson splattering across his beard. She held it up for the bar to see, her voice steady as stone. 2. That's for every time you thought. No, meant, try harder. The bar's patrons sat frozen, eyes wide, beers forgotten in their hands. No one dared interrupt. The once feared Crusher Dalton was nothing but a broken animal, and Maya was his reckoning. Rick collapsed further, sobbing, blood pooling at his knees. His gang exchanged nervous glances, none willing to be the first to move. Their leader's downfall was destroying the illusion of their power. Maya leaned close, her words sharp enough to carve into his soul. You had the chance to walk away, Rick. All you had to do was listen when I said, don't touch me. She jammed the pliers once more, his muffled screams echoing. A third tooth snapped free, spraying flecks of blood against the counter. She dropped it beside the others, 3 little monuments to his arrogance. One for me, one for every woman you silenced, and one for the girl who didn't survive you. The room gasped. Some knew exactly what she meant. Rumors had followed Rick for years, whispers of a girl who had gone missing after he cornered her one night. Nothing proven, nothing ever punished, until now. Rick's eyes bulged, his face drained of color. He tried to speak, but all that came out was a broken gargle of blood and pain. Maya stood tall, pliers dangling at her side, her breathing calm. She wasn't smiling, she wasn't enjoying it. This wasn't pleasure, it was justice, raw and merciless. She looked around the bar, sweeping her gaze across every terrified face. Let this be a lesson, she said, her voice carrying like a judge's gavel. Harassment is not a joke. It's not a game, and tonight, it turned into horror, for him. Next time, it'll be for anyone else who thinks they can get away with it. No one spoke. No one moved. Maya dropped the pliers onto the counter, the metallic clatter ringing louder than gunfire. She turned her back on Rick, leaving him whimpering in a pool of his own blood and broken pride. As she walked toward the door, the bar parted for her like the Red Sea. No one dared block her path. Some men lowered their eyes in shame. Others stared at her in awe, as if they'd seen a ghost, or a force of nature that couldn't be contained. Outside, the night was cool, the air crisp against her skin. She took a deep breath, the neon glow from the bar buzzing behind her. Somewhere in the distance, thunder rumbled. She tucked her hands into her jacket pockets and walked down the empty road, boots steady against the asphalt. She didn't need applause, she didn't need thanks. She hadn't done it for them. She had done it for every woman who'd been silenced. For every victim who hadn't been believed. For the girl who never got her chance at justice. Behind her, in that bar, the legend of Maya Carter had been born. And for Rick Dalton, Crusher no longer meant strength. It meant the sound of his teeth snapping, one by one, beneath the unflinching grip of a woman who had finally said, "Don't touch me."